Okay. Gonna.
Oh, my camera is working.
Yeah, you're on.
Okay, awesome.
All right. And I got. All right. I've gone live with us here on my end, and I think
cool.
you're streaming as well, right?
I'm going live now.
Okay.
Editing like my stream title and stuff. How you doing? How you feeling?
I mean, it's a day. How are you doing?
It's a day. I had a dentist appointment today, and it was cool actually.
Yeah.
So, because my teeth aren't falling out of my head, so that's always good.
That is a good thing. That is a good thing. Are you traveling at the moment?
I'm not. I'm visiting a friend who's in town.
Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah. I'm in their hotel room.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we'll probably go like an hour or so. Because
that's no big.
Okay. So yeah. So this is EndlessCemetery. Just as a I'll give you a moment to introduce yourself, but from my perspective, I first saw you on a panel. I was very impressed with some of your positions, which were certainly much more thought out than some of the noise out there, which we'll talk about that a little bit more. And I've been following your stream and definitely recommend giving you a follow. In addition to your commentary, you're also a very talented musician.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, Hugo has as well on a little background on yourself.
That's pretty much it. I've been a musician here, and oh wow, there's two separate cameras. Sorry, you might be on camera. Sorry. Whoops.
Oh yeah, they are. I thought that was intended. Sorry.
Oh no. Yeah, that was not intentional. Sorry. Sorry, you were on camera. It's cool though. You were on camera for a second. It's cool though. Sorry. Let me see if I can I'll do this.
Yeah, there you go.
Work. All right, cool. Sorry. I have a DSLM that I use as my
as your primary.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Now that I knew that, I wish I would have known that earlier, so I wouldn't have wasted so much time in overlay because I thought they were the same camera feeds.
Okay.
But sorry. But yeah, I grew up in Baltimore. I've been living in Baltimore pretty much my entire life. I started playing music here in Baltimore. I used to play like punk and death metal. I started playing music like in the city. Personally, I started playing music in 2001, but I didn't start playing out until like 2007. I did that, and I really. What's that? I'm sorry.
Now, when you say playing out, you mean like at gigs or like busking?
Like gigging.
Okay, cool.
Like gigging. Sorry,
awesome.
Not like busking, but like like in high school, you have your friends, you all want to start a band and play music together and stuff, but it doesn't actually come to fruition until you are a little bit older, get a little bit more experience musically, and
right.
You gain experience with the business ends. But we could talk about that later if you want. But essentially, the music that I was playing was kind of it dovetailed with the politics that I had, because I would still describe myself primarily as an anarchist. But
yeah, and punk meshes with that.
So yeah, but I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, so I kind of had like a loose assemblage in terms of my personal politics at the time, but didn't really dive into that realm in terms of theory and philosophy. I'd already kind of dabbled in philosophy, and I use that term very loosely because I'm talking about Stefan Molyneux, because that was the first person who would actually was my introduction into anarchism as a philosophy and not just like punk music marketing,
Okay.
But we'll put a pin in that But I'll talk about the fact that later on in my musical career, in my last band, maybe 5, 6 years ago, which also coincided with Trump's election,
Hmm.
I found out that two of my bandmates at the time were involved in a neo-Nazi gang. I knew they were involved in this group, but I
shit.
didn't know I didn't know the extent to which they were involved politically.
That's wild. How?
And I don't mean just politically, like personal politics. I mean like local elections and that type of thing.
Right.
What were we gonna ask?
No, that's wild. Like, I don't. How do you be in like a band, a punk band with, that flirts with anarchism and be in a neo-Nazi gang? That's like, that's just wild to me.
It, yeah. So I don't even know where to begin. It's just kind of a thing where like the counterculture aspect of it, I feel like is the more
Okay.
you get. I don't know if that makes sense. What I'm trying to say
It
there.
does. Yeah. Just
To
like
where
anti-establishment raw,
right, yeah. So in those types of areas where you have a lot of small enclaves of alienated white men, just as a matter of course, whether you're talking about like anime or video games or what have you, which is why that shit is so pervasive, like Gamergate or whatever.
Right.
You'll always have the ability to convince these people that this energy that you have it comes from Jews and black people and Mexicans or whatever. It's not because of capitalism.
Right. That's, the unfortunate lie that fascism tells.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely a lie.
Yeah, they teach to kick down.
For sure.
So when did you get into streaming itself? And how did that come about?
So, I got into streaming, like kind of accidentally.
Okay.
I had a friend who would do YouTube, like Call of Duty clips, like trick shots and stuff on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And he had an HD PVR back before capture cards were as ubiquitous as they are, back before all this was even really a thing. I want to say this is probably like 2011-ish.
Oh, wow.
2010, 2011, 2012, yeah.
Yeah.
Frontier
days.
That early. Yeah, literally. So when the PS4 dropped and that functionality was baked in, I dabbled just because we played together, and I also had moments where I like, I wish I had a clip of that moment, because that was always a thing back in the day, right?
Sure.
Back in the days, your homeboy would be like, yeah, I got a quadruple kill on Halo using the pistol, and you're like, yeah, okay, bro, like,
yeah, clip that shit or
yeah,
shut up.
Yeah. Now it's Pixar didn't happen. So. But so yeah, I would clip games and stuff and do funny or cool stuff I did or funny moments with my friends, just for me personally to have, just for us to geek on. That evolved into me just straight up going live, but with no purpose or direction. Just like, I'm on the game playing, and might as well be live.
Right.
See what happens. Streaming to like 2 viewers tops, like people who are Facebook friends and like my sense of humor and stuff, and would see that I'm live and I post my link and come hang for a few minutes and did. When I got serious with the whole streaming thing, was obviously I was watching that sector like develop and become its own thing over the years, where you have people like Ninja and Mythic and Shroud, and these people that are making, if not making millions of dollars, making a living off of just being good at video games and being personable on the mic.
Yeah.
So I figured I'd try my hand, and I happened to be a FGC head, because one of the things that I learned about Baltimore, and more so just like the Mid-Atlantic United States, is that um, we're all doing our thing individually, especially when it comes to fighting games, because it's just you. But like some of the best fighting game players on planet fucking Earth come from this area, and it didn't hit me until I started doing tournaments and watching high level tournament play, and seeing all these people that I knew from around the way.
Hmm.
And my original game was going to be Soul Calibur 6. I picked
Okay.
up Soul Calibur 6 because way back in the day, my first job was at GameStop, and my assistant manager was like insane at this game, had mastered all the infinite combos and everything. And we used to go. He lived with the manager, so we used to go to their house after hours and hang out, drink beers, play games and stuff. And so because we had to play him, we had to adapt.
Yeah.
And that made us good at that game. And so yeah, so
Trial by fire.
I was like, I'm good at this game, I'll give it a shot. It seems like a small enough community, but a dedicated enough community that I could probably become at least a decent personality. Maybe not make a living off string, but make a cool following and have some good matches, make some good content.
Yeah.
And doing that, it was cool. I got some middling tournament results doing that. But when Mortal Kombat 11 dropped, I've always loved Mortal Kombat 11 or Mortal Kombat. I mean, Mortal Kombat is one of my favorite fighting games. One of my favorite games, maybe even. But I remember getting the first Mortal Kombat on the Super Nintendo when I was 5 years old, going to the arcade and like crying because the big kids knew how to do special moves and shit on the arcade machines at the arcade. Like Mortal Kombat is foundational to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, pick up Mortal Kombat 11, and it was different from every single other Mortal Kombat. They added one single mechanic, hit stop, and just that mechanic made the game slow enough for me to get good at.
Okay.
So I got good at Mortal Kombat 11. I won my first tournament last year, right before COVID popped off.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It was a local here in Baltimore. It was only like 7 entries, but
yeah,
it
but
was
still,
like,
that's awesome.
yeah, it was the moment I knew, like, okay. So then I got really serious about streaming and made all my overlays and got my friends to mod my chat for me and stuff.
And when you say made your overlays, you're serious about that. You are a graphic artist and stuff. You actually made your overlays.
Artist. That was actually what I went to college for.
Yeah.
That was one. Thanks, Biden. Because I went to ITT Tech, so all of my student loan debt from that is gone, which is cool.
Oh, that's
He fucked
fantastic.
all the rest of you guys over. Yeah, he fucked you guys over, but
Well,
I got mine. So.
not me. I'm a high school dropout.
Oh, well, I wish I would have done that.
Yeah, I went straight into writing software, but
yeah, I wish I would have done that for sure.
Yeah. So in the course of like streaming gaming, you decided to start like weighing in on your thoughts as well and such. Then.
Yeah, because you see me. I'm black. I'm a black man. So I just by living and existing and being me, I'm gonna have certain perspectives, and the catalyst in terms of me really leaning into that there was, for a lot of people, Trump was it. It was the same period of time for me, but it was a completely different event. It was the Freddie Gray uprising here in Baltimore.
Oh, okay.
I have a friend, shout out my boy Alan. He is an archivist for a school, and he does like labor history and is really involved in archiving like labor history and is really into that and labor movements and stuff. Really, really solid dude. And he put me on to the Freddie Gray thing. we were actually chilling with a mutual friend who was in the neo-Nazi band that I was telling you about. And I don't know if he was looking at his phone or what, but he just randomly out of nowhere was like, we should probably start paying attention to this Freddie Gray thing. I think this Freddie Gray stuff's going to be pretty serious. Because this is a person that I would just have, we would just, pontificate, talk about life in the United States and stuff all the time. So he said that and it struck me. And, sure enough, it was on the news the next day, and then the day after was when events I've described on my stream before happened, where the police trapped all the kids at the mall and then instigated the riots that the news plastered all
Cop
over
riot.
the TV, of course.
Yeah.
Right. But when I was talking about that, it was really important for me to talk about that a lot because I wanted to counter the narrative no matter how small my platform was. So that's when I really leaned into politics. And then after Trump got elected, I started to seek that content out more on YouTube instead of just like the random time wasting and like borderline ASMR stuff that I was looking at before. So that's when I discovered like Secular Talk with Kyle Kalinske, discovered Sam Cedar, discovered all of the like alt mainstream media stuff, like the stuff that if you were in a television, like watching a television in a hotel and it came on, it wouldn't be that jarring.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got into all that stuff first, and then I discovered Destiny.
Yeah.
And it was like that first crack rock you hit. It's like, nah. But
that was
I
think that's a fairly common pipeline for folks. Yeah.
Yeah, discovered Destiny because I was aware of all these YouTube white supremacists and stuff for a minute.
Oh yeah.
Because
they've dominated the platform.
Yeah, I was a fan of Molyneux. I was, and in Signifier's video, that's what resonated to me in that was the concept of these rehabilitated edgelords and white supremacists, because I was low-key one of those people. I got into Molyneux purely talking about anarchism and hierarchies of like the school system and your family unit and all that stuff, social stuff, like not even getting into the incel shit and all that stuff that he would get into when he started making his creep. But I was also kind of a weird kid, so I got into like YouTube Satanism and got into that community. But that's a whole different thing. But essentially, I sidestepped the whole arc that I feel like a lot of people made with the anti-SJW movement. I had moved away from YouTube content consumption and creation, I guess, more back into music production with my band and stuff. So I was just away. So I didn't even. It's not even saying that I wouldn't have gone through the anti-SJW thing, because I had friends that were in like surface level into Gamergate. I'm sure if people who know me personally could probably, if they went back far enough, dig up Facebook statuses or something of me talking about Gamergate myself.
Wow.
Just because it's like I was saying before, you have these institutions with like alienated, in my case, just a men, but alienated white men who identify a problem but can't identify the source. And naturally, the white supremacists are more than ready and willing to swoop in and say that it's women's fault, that they won't just like learn to stay in their place or whatever,
or whatever group they want out.
Right. But for me, I became fascinated by Gamergate. I was interested in it because I was pissed off about the quality of gaming journalism, and it seemed very obviously to me like PR, like they're probably paying a lot of these journalists, you know what I mean? I was on that level. So Gamergate, like, yeah, journalism and gaming for sure. Yeah, let's get into that. Let's have that conversation. But then it became something completely different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just on that, just because to give my own take on it, or my own
Yeah,
history with
please
it.
do.
I bounced off of Gamergate entirely. I didn't even. It's not something that I picked up because my idea of gaming journalism was like the Nintendo Power magazines that I grew up with, and that was all
Facts.
paid advertising. So I was like,
Right.
what do you people expect? Like, this is like the idea of game journalism is to promote games.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I didn't
that was
understand what the fuss was about.
that
Um,
makes perfect sense, but the perspective that was presented was like the smaller like the indies,
oh
you know what
yeah,
I mean, like Kotaku and such. Because my perspective at the time was, because I'm a OG gamer like you, Nintendo Power,
yeah,
EGM, PSM, all that shit is foundational, right?
yeah.
But it was inevitably taken off by your Kotakus and Rock Paper Shotguns, and even your like,
Oh yeah,
you know, shout out Steph Sterling doing
absolutely,
the Lord's work.
absolutely. Um, but yeah, that one, I found very odd and ended up kind of ignoring it until later when I started getting more into politics myself. Because I was, for a very, very long time, I was raised in a more conservative household. I never really went the like anti-SJW route. I was just the apolitical white guy who just, none of these problems are my problem. I'm just doing my thing.
I relate because I grew up in a mostly white neighborhood, so a lot of that was my friend group for the most part. It was that type of attitude, and that molded my early politics, honestly.
Yeah. Um, and that's actually, at this point, that's primarily what kind of my target audience is the apolitical, and I try and mobilize them because like a lot of to me kind of from my own experience, being apolitical typically means just not actually being educated on issues and what's going on, because once you know, it's really hard to remain apolitical.
Right. That's kind of where I'm at with my gaming content, is whenever I do gaming stuff, I try to casually drop stuff, and I have like Hassan lives where I try to make it interesting
Mhm.
for the youth to where it's not boring, and I can break it down in terms they understand too. Like talking about like the labor theory of value and stuff with like year olds. It's weirdo shit, but I feel like it's valuable.
Yeah, it is. It is. Um, so one of the things that I wanted to kind of examine with you and get your thoughts on, as I mentioned at the start, the first place that I was introduced to you was on a panel discussion, and one of the trends that I've noticed in some of these panels, and I don't want to, I don't want to turn this into like bashing the debate bro community, but
I
one
don't
of
mind that at all,
yeah, fair enough, but
but
one of the trends that I've noticed is most of these panels discussions will gravitate pure, they'll orbit purely around the two points of argumentation presented by specifically white men. And you'll have like one who's arguing some sort of progressive point, one who's arguing some sort of conservative point, and any marginalized voice who actually tries to present more meat to the discussion, you basically get to say what you're saying, and then they go back to fighting over the basics. And it's just,
right. I
it's
watched a panel full of
maddening.
white people talk about. Yeah, I watched a panel full of white people talk about the prison industrial complex, and I was losing my mind the entire fucking time.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It was weird.
I saw a panel a while back where it was like, it was almost all white men, and there was one woman, and it was about abortion. And I can tell you, the one woman barely got any voice time at all.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah,
And it's because and that's why, like, I don't know, dude. I felt really bad. Like, just as an example, this is why it really irritated me when Stardust, like, it pulled us. I don't know if you watched that first panel.
I don't think so. I don't watch too many of them.
So yeah, neither do I. So the first one I did was with Stardust. There was one woman on that panel. Stardust was the one on the panel. And so it was a Kyle Rittenhouse debate. And
oh no, that is the one that I saw.
She made, okay, yeah. So I don't know if you saw her make the argument like that, saying that Kyle Rittenhouse shouldn't have been in Kenosha's, like, when a woman is sexually assaulted, and you're saying that she shouldn't have been out with a dude who potentially could have sexually assaulted her or something like that. And it's just, yeah, and it's like it causes me actual physical pain going through that, because I gotta shout you down when they do that.
Yeah.
While this platform is regularly doing that in a completely different, like, situation.
Right.
And it's not even just that. It's like, so and I still have to go back and see who it was. But like, it's wild to me. So I think it was you actually who told me about Montreal player being a transphobe, or allegedly being a transphobe. It was somebody who told me that, because I was sitting there wondering. We had that whole conversation. This dude founded a food co-op. He's talking about individual liberty and stuff, and I'm like, fam, like, how are you a conservative? And then somebody popped in and was just like, he hates trans people, and I'm like, oh, naturally. And it's like, it's weird to me. You present, like, it's the same. Because I tweeted this. It's the same false equivalence bullshit that we criticize the mainstream media for. You're presenting this trans person who has to daily already, just as a matter of being, debate the validity of their actual fucking existence with people on the street who are actually trying to kill them every fucking day. And then you have this other fucking dickhead with a Gadsden flag in the background. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On the Adam and Steve, and not Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve wave, right? And it's like, it's silly. Like, it was either Montreal player or CTV that I was having a conversation with.
Yeah.
And somebody from their chat came into my chat to talk about how apes need to be run over in the street or something like that. To the point where one of my mods, my Fade Runner, just immediately banned him.
Yeah,
like,
well,
I didn't even get a chance to see it. That's why I can't remember it vividly.
Right.
Because we have to deal with that shit so often, and he knows what it is, because he's white, and he won't even let me see that shit a lot of the time, because he knows what it is, and like, he knows I'm a resilient type of dude, and I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't the type of person that enjoyed the insult slinging. We got this thing in the black community called the Dozens. Lots of black boys play it. It's like the Yo Mama, that type of thing. So okay. I'm well versed in that behavior, so it doesn't bother me. But like,
but still,
when it gets ridiculous is when you have what are presenting themselves as like prestigious platforms or whatever, or people that are trying to amass like a large audience, or are portraying themselves as political, like, streams. It just strikes me as massively irresponsible when, assuming that the party that's viewing it is neutral, you're presenting those two positions as having equal validity, and it's crazy.
So that actually gets to an idea that it's been rolling around in my head. So in looking at like historical debates against, or between like higher profile thinkers in history. Some of the more productive debates typically are where they're actually in agreement for, 80, 90%. And then it's the smaller bit that the debate is about. So, because if you think about it, if you enter a debate with someone, your point of contention will be wherever that division is. And if your divide is on the absolute basics, if you're stuck trying to argue systemic racism exists, you're never going to get anywhere.
Right. Yeah. It's like the thing I say is like it's like trying to explain water to a fish. Like
Right.
it's
Yeah. So I don't know how to get the debate community there to embrace that sort of thinking, because that seems like that could produce much more useful conversations.
for sure. In terms of the debate stuff, I talked about this a little bit in the stream I did Monday night or whatever, I think, or whenever I did it. But I think it might have been last night. But my goal with that was to speak out people like you that might have been, because I'd never heard of that shit before I did it. I followed Dylan Burns, and this is funny too, because I didn't realize Dylan had 1776 in his handle until very recently, which is yikes. But so I followed Dylan, and I could have met Dylan because I wanted to go to DC on January 6th, but my mom tested positive for COVID. Because I didn't even get to that. That was when I got super like, I won't say wonky because I'm super himbo with a lot of my shit, but like that's when I leaned really into theory. Was last year, because I went out and live streamed a lot of the protests here
nice.
in Baltimore. Yeah, I was on WokeNet. They had my stream featured on there for a minute.
I'm sure that I saw your stream on there because I used to watch that regularly.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people who were on there who came and went, because there was a lot of people who had never heard of Twitch before.
Yeah,
they used it to do that. So, as a concept, it was crazy because it started happening, and I already knew the drill from Freddie Gray. So, the first night that I went out there were community organizers, I guess you could say, people who for the work that they do with different organizations and stuff, like representing Real News and all these different things like community outreach and stuff. They were out there in the middle of the crowd saying like, no, we're not fucking shit up, we're not breaking anything, we're not lighting anything on fire. We did that 6 years ago, we're not doing it again, right? To the point where there was some pretty fucking gross instances of them literally picking people up out of the crowd and handing them over to police. There was one specific incident, I might have caught it on live on stream. There was a kid who busted a window at the police precinct in Baltimore City. He busted a window, and I'm sorry, these are two different events that were both so crazy that I mix them up all the time.
It's okay.
The first one was this dude set off a firework in the middle of the crowd, and they literally scooped him up and dropped him off at the police line and snitched on him, and the police took him away. But there was someone else that smashed a window it was this white kid who's like from the county or something, I guess, that smashed a window at the police precinct, and somebody from the community like snatched him up by a collar and screamed in his face like, you're gonna come here and do this shit, but you're not gonna have to deal with any of the consequences of it. Because this was after Sean Suiter as well. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
So This was after they had literally already turned an entire community in the city into an open air prison. So yeah, there was a lot of really crazy events. Um, and when I was talking to a lot of the like libs who are out there, and I shouldn't even really say libs because that's unfair. I guess there's a lot of people that was their introduction to political action was like everybody's out there doing this thing. I'm gonna go do it too. And you can't do it and not learn something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there were so many people like I was streaming the police. We were at there's a field where there's a park where there were speeches happening and stuff, and there was a police line and we were up against the gate, and I was streaming the police that were there watching this and stuff, and the crowd started cheering. So I was like, what's happening? I worked my way up and I saw people were cheering because the police were taking knees and putting up like taking knees and putting up fists. And I was like,
Oh my God.
what the fuck? And I was like, you do realize as soon as the sun goes down,
That's some
they're gonna
performative
throw
bullshit.
that riot gear on and beat the shit out of us.
Yeah.
And they're like, what are you talking about? What are you talking
That's
about?
their camera on face.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I was like, I promise you, as soon as that curfew kicks in, a fucking cloud of tear gas so thick you can't even see through your hand in front of your face is going to mysteriously drift across the park, and those cops are going to mask up and put on vests and shields and start beating the fuck out of us. And they were like flabbergasted. Mind you, the shield cops were showing up behind the cops that were taking knees while this is going on. So I'm like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. And sure enough, there was I had someone who organized, I can't say his name because he's undercover doing something now, who came on to talk about the police that were arresting people. There was legit snatch squads. People were just getting picked up in like unmarked vans and stuff off the street.
Oh yeah.
It was some not quite Belarusian type shit, but damn close. And
No, I saw that a lot.
that.
Anytime someone got separated from the crowd, they
It was
were at risk. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it was once again me trying to counter the narrative because the way that the news was portraying it was that we were out there burning, setting off fireworks, busting windows, breaking things, and the area where we were consolidated because naturally we got kettled, like obviously.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The area we were consolidated was titty bars, a bank, and like bandos. There was nothing there to meet and break even. Like, and of course, I had footage of police assaulting people. There was at certain points there would be people on their knees with their hands up saying hands up, don't shoot, you know what I mean? Protesters doing that, prostrating themselves in the most peaceful possible gesture that you could imagine, right? And the police are just fucking shield bashing them, you know what I mean? It was nuts. And the news crews were out there trying to get footage. And I had to tell them, like, you guys should probably leave. If y'all don't have a helicopter or something, you should probably leave because the police are going to get to this part of the crowd eventually. And they're like, why do you say that? Why do you say that? And I'm like, the people you work for are paid to put specific shit on. Like, I'm sure you guys are cool people, and I'm sure you think you're out here for a good reason. But the footage that you're like capturing and the words that you're going to speak on that mic are going to be used to portray a certain narrative here.
Yeah.
And the police don't give a fuck about that anyway. They will beat you, and then they don't have. Nobody has to deal with that. The taxpayers have to deal with that.
Yeah.
That was actually in a piece of content I put on my Instagram. Was the taxpayers pay millions of dollars in settlement fees to BPE because of police brutality.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's when I got super into doing coverage of actual like congressional hearings and stuff like that, was
Yeah, that
in the aftermath of that.
I have kind of I didn't get quite into the thick of it as much as you did, but I do have to say that I had started to creep towards leftism, but it wasn't until participating in protests that cops actually radicalized me.
I feel.
Yeah.
I, like a lot of black radicals, got radicalized in jail. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole thing. Just for your audience's sake, when police abolition
I'm
is.
actually not live yet.
Oh,
But
okay. Sorry.
yeah,
Well,
sorry, it's no big deal. It's cool. I'm just gonna let you do your thing
yeah,
because
yeah, fair.
my multi-streaming is not working, so I'm
Okay.
just like, yeah, whatever.
Well,
It's cool.
this will end up on YouTube, and you can pop that around for your
Right
folks
on.
and such. But
Nice.
from my end, one of the topics that I cover most extensively is the case for police and prison abolition, and that's something we definitely have in common. And yeah, just delving deep into, 'cause it's not a new subject,
Oh,
especially
absolutely
like
not.
black writers especially have been writing about it for, I mean,
So, and here's the crazy thing: black writers have been writing about it in specific reference to like um, the American prison system as we know it.
yeah,
But like the French philosophers had been writing about like the Panopticon and
yep,
stuff since they invented the prison system. Like we have literally always known what the result of locking people up in cages for an extended period of time is.
yeah,
It's just it makes people too much money, so we got to keep doing it.
yeah. It makes money, and the cost is human lives.
And it's an easy solution to the black or immigrant or mentally ill question. You know, just throw them where the sun don't shine. That's it. Homeless. You know.
Yeah. And unfortunately, this is the saddest part, is the propaganda around it, the dehumanizing of the carceral population is
So
so
that's actually
pervasive.
what radicalized me.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's actually what radicalized me when I went to jail.
Hmm.
Was I said it in the second in my second panel, but I'm a drug war veteran. Um, I was arrested. My first arrest was for marijuana possession. That was a whole experience because prior to that, I'd actually been robbed by GTTF, which are a whole gun trace task force.
Okay.
There's a um, if you want to look into them, their rap sheet is a mile long. There's actually documentaries and stuff that just came out about them and related to the Sean Suiter case. Um, but essentially, suffice it to say, they were, if you could imagine, just like the most corrupt imaginable cops, like Gotham City, like comic book level, like hacky, like ham-fisted comic book villain level police officers. That was these guys.
Hmm.
That they were so fucking evil that they had to get put in jail. Like there was no way they could walk.
Hmm.
But I wasn't aware. I was only 18, 19 when they robbed us. And I had no encounters with the police before that. Because like I said, I grew up in a mostly white neighborhood. So I was scared shitless. I thought we were all going to jail for our blunt, but he just took all of our money and left. And our weed, naturally. So I kept getting court cases postponed and postponed and postponed because I was moving around a lot. I had different addresses. And or I'm sorry, that was my second FTA. The first one was because there was a thing here called the Diversion Program,
Mhm.
which is a way for the state before they legalized and decriminalized it. It was just a way for the state to suck money out of the population to where if it was your first narcotics offense, no matter what it was, quantity and all that, if it was only that and like a nonviolent offense, you could do something called the Diversion Program, which was like $150 and 2 weeks of rehab, and you get a probation before a judgment, and it doesn't go in your record. So they kept failing to send me the paperwork for that. So I would go to court and they would be like, all right, so do you want to do the diversion program? And I'd be like, yeah. And they'd be like, cool, where's your paperwork? And I'd be like,
You haven't sent her to me. Yeah.
right. So finally, after my court case is postponed like 3 times, getting close to the statute of limitations, I thought my court case was July 3rd, but it was June 3rd. So June 4th, the police kicked my door in with Glocks pointed at my face and hauled my ass off to jail. And that moment was wild just because of how the police talked to me. They were not, like, you hear my accent.
And just to
like,
reiterate,
you know what I mean?
This is for possession of
cannabis.
Yeah, possession of marijuana.
Right.
And they kicked your door in and aimed guns at your face.
Yeah, and robbed me. Went through my apartment and see, the thing
Fucking
is,
hell.
it wasn't even for any actual weed. That's the crazy part. They just found a resi bowl and they couldn't stick, like, they knew we were smoking weed and there was weed residue in it, but it was, if you get charged with paraphernalia, you automatically get charged with possession. So it was one of those things. But
right.
The second time I went to jail is what really, really radicalized me, because it was in 2016 as well. It was right after Freddie Gray. It was leading up to Donald Trump's election. I caught FTA because I was driving on a suspended license. I was caught in a poverty cycle. I was a pizza driver, had a bunch of unpaid tickets. My license ended up getting suspended, but I couldn't not drive because I drove for a living.
Right.
So I was trying to secretly drive on the low and do this to make up enough money to pay my tickets and blah, blah, blah. Got trapped. Ended up in jail with a dude who missed a child support payment at an FTA and was in a van that had no brake lights. And his coworker was like, hey, you should go get that fixed before they pull you over. Because that's one of the things that police do. They love doing traffic stops like that, so they can search you and stuff. And he said he was pulling into the AutoZone. He was literally pulling into AutoZone, getting ready to buy the brake lights to put him in when the police officer let him up, BPD let him up. Saw he had an FTA and stuff, so he was driving on suspended or whatever, and arrested him. And while we were getting processed, the COs were black, all of them, which was wild to me. But then they were just absolute pieces of shit to us. And they had this guy in solitary that was freaking the fuck out. He was in, it was like, did you see the movie Doom?
I haven't seen it yet.
So there's a scene where the dude like spazzes because he knows he's turning into a zombie, and he bashes his head into this window until he like cracks his skull and kills himself. And this dude was like doing that. He's smashing his face into the shit, screaming. His nose is leaking. His forehead's leaking. He's freaking the fuck out, and they're all ignoring him. And I like can't handle this. I've never been in an environment like that before. Like I'd been to jail before and been around like hood ass dudes, like knowing like these people have guns and that type of shit. But like I have never been around just like crisis like that before. Because like a tidbit about me as well is that when I was 19, I wanted to be an EMT. That's what pissed me off about the Kyle Rittenhouse shit too, is because I went through EMT training and I did all of that. And what I realized was that I was not mentally prepared for that life that young. So I washed out. But
yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, so I was not equipped to deal with that. So I was already spazzed. But when I got processed and they put me on a tier, my cellie was just this white kid who was just illin'. He was dope sick, and you know he was like sweating. I'm getting emotional now thinking about it because how fucked up it was. Like he was like sweating and shivering and shaking on the bottom bunk and shit, throwing up. And I'm like, he needs help. These people need help. You know what I mean? Like they don't need to be in here with these other, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's I mean, I like one of the stories that hit me the most of the ones that we've covered was reading an account by Russell Shoatz, who spent, what was it, 12 years in solitary during his time?
Jesus.
Not all at once, but spread out across. Yeah.
Still though, that's crazy.
Former Black Panther. Still. Yeah. I mean, that's and
because the Khalif Browder story fucked me up really badly too.
And the description of that was just absolutely horrifying.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I agree with you 100%. Like, criminality isn't like a defect of person. It is, especially considering, how many laws are unjust. Usually it just means someone has fallen on hard times and needs a leg up. Vast majority of cases, that's the case. The
primary motivator of crime is poverty,
right?
Because poverty is violence,
right? And like one of the compare and contrast that with one of the models that we looked at, which is much more human care focused, of Norway, where like their jailed population they get basically apartment room. You can pursue your own interests. You don't have like a curfew or anything. You can. Their model is basically building a community where people can live as human beings, wear their own clothes, pursue their own interests, and the concept is people are social creatures. They need to live as social creatures, and if you treat them like animals, people will fall apart. Like
they'll either become animals or just self-destruct.
Right. Yeah, and it's certainly. So I'm actually really curious now. I want to ask about this specifically. One of the worst points of prison in my mind is, like, as bad as conditions are on the inside, is the release with absolutely no safety net. So I'm curious, when you got out, like, what was that like?
So it's crazy because, like, for me, I had a support system. Like, I had parents who cared about me and stuff.
I mean, that's so very fortunate.
And so in my instance, I called my mom. It was like 4 a.m. when I got to the detention center, because that's a for-profit prison. That was I don't know if that's still a thing that is illegal in America, which is wild in the first place.
It's still legal. We still have them.
Okay, so Baltimore Detention still exists then, and that place is a for-profit prison. A former mayor, governor, I think, actually owns that prison, or owns majority share in it. But
we're not building new ones allegedly, but we haven't shuttered them. So.
Right. It doesn't matter because you just pack more and more people into the old ones.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I got arrested, it was crazy. We were super cramped in the first cell I was in. It was just kind of a drunk tank. But then when they took me in another cell to speak to the commissioner, they would have more than one of us in there at a time because they didn't have enough room. The first time, it was the three of us, so there was at least kind of room. There was one person on the cot. There was me up against the wall. And then they brought this other dude in who they fucked him up. And it was over weed.
Jesus
He was
Christ.
with his cousin at a motel. And it said, they, for no reason, stopped some stop and frisk type shit. Just stopped him, asked him where he was going, what he was doing, whatever. He was like, he's with his cousin. All right, he's like, I'm with my cousin. We're at this room, whatever. And like, all right, well then, let's go there, whatever. And so he ran, and that's like a fucking animal, like a wild animal. You run, the chase instinct is there. So he ran. They chased him, beat the shit out of him, and when I say they soaked him with mace, I mean he was doused. Like, his drawers were orange because he was handcuffed and just in the back of the squad car and in the drunk tank and everything, handcuffed and burning. and like with anklets on too. So like
Okay.
ankle irons, handcuffed and burning. And when they finally put him in there with us is when they took his ankle irons and everything off. So he's like freaking out, going to the sink, trying to wash it off, and he's like, look, and literally he pulled his shorts down. You can see his drawers, and they were orange from all the OC spray they tagged him with, all because he had a gram of weed in his sock. And that was the first time, and the second time there was like 5 of us sitting there. I was sitting on the concrete floor for like 3 hours because there was no room to stand, to sit anywhere. And there was like 5 of us in like an 8x6 cage. You know what I mean? Like uh, fucking real slavery vibes.
Yeah.
But when I got out, it was because my mom posted bail. Because that's also what fucked me up was that because it was an FTA, they said I was a fucking flight risk, and set my bail. Or no, it was because I'd already had an FTA, so they were like, "Oh, you got another one, flight risk, $3,000 bail." So I'm like, "What the fuck?"
Jeez.
And so my mom posted my bail, which was like 10%, so you only have to put up like $30, something like that. And as long as you go to your court date, you don't have to pay the rest of it.
Right.
That's how a cash bail works, as far as I know. But it could have easily been a situation where I don't have the money for bail. You know, New York City type shit where I don't have the money for bail, so I'm locked up, and my case keeps getting postponed and pushed back, and I spend 2-3 years just in lockup before I've even seen a judge. You know
right.
what I mean?
And that's, something like a third of our carceral population are all pretrial detentions. That's before, even had a verdict of guilt. Shout out to Bail Project and National Bail Out.
Yes. Yeah. But they just kind of the way that I walked out was there was like, it's like a visitor area where I guess if people want to come see you or whatever, they can walk through that way too.
Mm-hmm.
But you come out, it's like a long ass elevator, like SCP division or some shit like that, where you know what I mean? And they just give you whatever shit that they think you should have from when they took you there, and that's it. And you might be light a few dollars, you might be light a phone or whatever, and then at that point, fight it in court.
Yeah. So and if you didn't have like your family to pull back on, like, the fuck do you do?
Yeah, like I would have been sitting in jail. Luckily,
I mean, even once you're like released, like in my mind, like if someone has just spent 2 years in jail under those conditions and they're released and they get their meager belongings back, like by that time you've lost whatever home you were renting, you've lost your job, you have nothing. Like, the fuck do you do?
The turnaround was quick for me because, like I said, I had
a support network
system.
Yeah.
So I was only in jail for about 24 hours total. Yeah. But like you said, it doesn't take long. 2 or 3 days, one light paycheck. You know what I mean? That's it. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
For you to be behind on a car note or mortgage or rent or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes. Most people, what's the statistic? Half the country can't afford a $500 accident.
Yeah. And that's 2 days, 2 or 3 days of pay.
Yeah. I make 16 an hour and I have full benefits and stuff. So that's literally a week's worth of pay for me. That happened to me. Mm-hmm. I got sick a couple weeks ago and missed the entire week of like Thanksgiving. And I had one personal day because I had like COVID days and shit too that I used. But if I didn't have my situation set up right now, like I moved back with my folks after COVID, after I lost my last job, I would have been super screwed, super duper screwed, especially in the last house I was in because I could barely afford to live there by myself. The reason why I left is because both of my roommates moved out.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's that kind of touches a little bit on, the broader case for abolition is it isn't just about prisons. It's about making sure that your society actually systemically uplifts people. Like, people fall on hard times. Make sure people are housed. Make sure people have food security. Make sure folks have access to education and shit. And
and it's also about the community, like
right.
with what Keith Davis's family said. Like, he's a member of our community, and you have him, and we would like him back.
Yeah.
Like, flat the fuck out, straight up and down. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a good conversation, though. I appreciate you. Like I said, I feel like the panel stuff was a success because I found people like you, Boy Meets Mini, Beauty Bad, all these awesome, fucking hilarious, intelligent, motivated leftist people.
Yeah.
Sharky, you know what I mean? Just so that alone makes it worth it for me, but I'm not sure how many. The context would have to be very different for me to do another one. I can't do another one where some fucking dipshit is gonna have chatters in my fucking chat talking about how protesters are apes and shit. Can't do it again.
No, I think there's a way to responsibly get a debate panel, and it's getting people who are generally on the same page about this is the problem.
Right.
And, basically, rather than just pitting people against each other to have sparks fly, you're putting your heads together to try and refine ideas and, promote action. I think that's a more useful form of debate. And I think that, definitely. You, me, Minnie, and such, getting on a conversation together, I think there could be some useful conversations that come out of that.
Yeah, I think it is more so educational for people. Like, I don't think in terms of like winning people over or like convincing new people, I don't think debates are particularly effective. I think they can be, I think they can be effective in like you're saying, in getting into the nitty gritty, as Hassan would say, the nuance and the just like the things that you might not even really conceive of unless you're bouncing ideas off of another person with a different perspective or different mindset. So it's cool for that. But it's I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of really fucking sus when you just have like, let's get some transphobes and some trans people to fucking scream at each other. Let's get some chuds and a black guy to scream at each other. You know what I mean? Like,
it's very sus. And that I do think that I think FD Signifier flirted with that, but pulled back from saying. I think he could have gone harder and on some of that.
I still haven't yet watched the shark conversation between them, but I did love that video. Just because it introduced me to new content creators, because that was something else. Was the algorithm thing was like, I knew I was getting fucked by the algorithm, but I didn't know how long the dick was. You know what I mean? Like, like, I didn't know that there was an entire community of people that I thought that I was trying to establish that already existed. It's just that they were being shuffled away from me.
Same. I mean? I've been, even before that one came out, one of the concepts that I try and push on my channel, and something I try and do myself, is I call it decolonizing your feed. And like, I was able to find people like Foreign Man in a Foreign Land and, like St. Andrewism and some of these by deliberately looking, but you do have to.
Yeah. Oh, on that note, R.I.P. Bell Hooks. I just want to throw that in there just because that was crazy news today.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's that? I'm sorry.
What was that? R.I.P. Which?
Bell Hooks.
Bell Hooks. I
Oh,
missed this.
very, very excellent writer. Excellent writer. Definitely worth looking into. But yeah, she apparently died today.
Oh, yeah. I need to look into that.
Admittedly, I haven't read anything front to back of hers, but
Mhm.
I've seen enough like spicy like tweets and Instagram quotes and like JPEGs and shit from Black Twitter and shit to know that it's fire.
All right. Okay. Let me grab a link for my own reference. Okay.
But yeah, she basically wrote about like race and transgenderism and queerness and so on and so forth in relation to class,
I
but
see.
and not in a way that was class reductionist. You know what I mean?
Right. The will to change, all about love.
And in a way that was entertaining and not so clinical as a lot of academic work is.
So she wrote it accessibly. That's good.
Right.
All right. I grabbed my link for that. I like to archive. I don't know if you saw, like, in the Discord, I have different sections because I try and organize information.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so she died today. That's...
I don't know if she died today or if they just announced that she died today, but yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's see. Something else there's another topic that I wanted to dig at your mind on. Oh yeah. So in addition to like, the being algorithmed out and the harassment in general, I am really kind of alarmed at how a lot of those, let's just call it what it is, a lot of racism is manifesting in like the Twitch political sphere, and how it's kind of just accepted. I like there's not enough people who are pointing at it and saying like this shit shouldn't stand, and like it's being normalized or just ignored by too many folks, I guess, that call themselves allies, which I hate that term.
It's I can't really.
Yeah, and
there's nothing.
Someone in my chat says, and Twitch just doesn't seem to care, and that's absolutely true.
They don't. Absolutely not. The only thing Twitch cares about is dollar signs. That's why Destiny still has a platform. But I can't point to anything specifically with that. But like, one thing that is absolutely fucking wild to me is I watched it was like so brain-numbingly fucking just ridiculously fucking stupid that I watched it for like 5 seconds and turned it off. But it was like one of Stardust's panels I went through, and literally I open it and off top the dude is green screened up like how you are right now.
Yeah.
But it's just a sign above him that says free helicopter rides, right?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and I'm like, dog, what the fuck? And I don't even remember what they were even debating about. One of the dudes said ACAB, and then like 3 people on the panel started chanting, yeah, all commies are bastards. All commies are bastards. And they're like, all commies are bastards. And I'm like, fam. And I talked about it in that panel with her, and they all try to pretend like they didn't know what I was talking about or what Alec was talking about. after CTV had literally flashed his gun on screen, which is a little bit different scenario. But like, I really need for a lot of these like so-called leftists and like allies and so on and so forth to understand that, like I said earlier, with the fake neutrality bullshit, that it's irresponsible
It is.
at face value for that, but you're platforming and you're rubbing elbows and you think you're being friendly and setting politics aside for the sake of content and camaraderie with people who literally would kill you if they could. They're
Right.
horny to kill you.
Yeah.
Like they're super horny to kill you.
That's
And it's just
that's the
I
part
don't
that's
get it.
mind-boggling to me is they're like, after, even if they get into it on stream, they're like, oh, that was a great panel or whatever, or they're like afraid to burn bridges with, like you said, people who literally would see them dead if they could get the policies pushed. And
Yeah, and I wish I could have gotten that point across during the first panel with like Double Shine and
yeah,
and Stardust and so on. I don't really have that problem with Alec, but with them, because they're up there defending Kyle Rittenhouse. And I don't know how to explain to you how, if you want to take what you believe to its full conclusion, if you want to stand on what you say you are, if you're an ally and you want to do like progressive stuff, maybe if you don't want to call yourself a leftist, but you want to do allyship, Joseph Rosenbaum could easily have been you.
yeah,
Like you could have very easily gotten clapped because if, like I said, if you take this shit to its full conclusion, you will be in the streets. You
should.
will be zapping phones. It's not even a matter of would or should. It's just that's
True.
what's going to happen
Yeah.
if you give even a fraction of a fuck. You know what I mean?
Yes, I
Because
do.
we've all done it. Everyone. It's not even that we can't moralize about it because we've all done it. You know what I mean? It's just, and it's not to gatekeep. It's just saying, like, if you care, you're going to put in the work, no matter how little effort you put in. Whether it's you went to your first protest and took an Instagram picture and made a little post or whatever, or you're out there every night fist fighting with the police. Like you, in either at any rate, you're going to end up in a precarious position where you're going to end up in a right winger's crosshairs.
Mhm.
I promise you.
Yeah. There's also I forget the author's name. She wrote a. It's why I don't like to use the term ally anymore, though. She wrote a very strong, very convincing argument, and I internalized the hell out of it because I agree with it. The term ally suggests that it's like going above and beyond, when really what is considered allyship should just be normal fucking behavior if you give a damn about human beings. And what should be the case is the inverse of that. Anyone that isn't acting that way should just be called out for being a piece of shit.
Facts.
And it's basically kind of accepting the allyship framework is leaving the Overton window of human interaction where it's at rather than where it should be. And she wrote it in a much less diplomatic way than I'm putting it, but
I appreciate it though. I get it for sure.
It was a great essay. If I find it, I'll send it over. But that was really a kind of profound to me, and is a better way of thinking about things, I think, because also internalizing that framework, you are going to be a lot less likely to be tolerant of people who are, either openly or veiled doing veiled bigotry. And I think especially more white people need to do that.
So on that note, well, not really on that note, but this just kind of hit me.
Yeah.
Talking. Do you find it sus? Because I'm trying to figure out if I'm on like real Alex Jones hours or not. Do you find it sus that 24 to 48 hours in the aftermath of us finding out that those Amazon workers died in that factory because they were threatened with firing if they weren't there. That
Yeah,
some of the most but hang on, so you know where I'm going,
I
but
do.
you gotta you gotta follow me because I'm gonna go in the weeds here. I'm going into the weeds now, the deep water. I guess you have your floaties. So it's bizarre to me, and I've been looking because I don't want to be uncharitable, and maybe I haven't looked hard enough, but I feel like
So
people should be going super hard about that. I haven't seen Hassan talk about it really. I haven't seen Bosch really talk about it.
I
I've just seen Med of this C word discourse,
right.
but I
So
haven't seen.
two different thoughts. First, I agree with you 100%. People need to go really hard on that. That was a pointless waste of life just because of corporate greed, straight up,
For
and
profit. Yeah.
for profit. Like, there's no excuse for that. And it should be definitely a rallying cry for unionization, because they, like, individually they could tell people, yeah, if you leave, we'll fire you or whatever, but if they had a union, they'd be able to say, no, chief, we're going home. You can
Right.
you can hold the door if you want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You will be running the factory today.
Yeah. So I think, 100% they should be going hard about it. Your first thought, however, is it sus? I don't think so. And the reason why I say that is, do you actually, like, Amazon's been caught in a whole lot of hot water, some even worse than this. Do you
That's
believe
true.
that they would be that concerned about this particular story? Because I don't see the heat on them yet. Like, if they were feeling the heat, maybe, but I don't see it yet.
Yeah, I
It
guess
just seems
that's a fair
coincidental.
assessment. Yeah, I guess it's one of those it's Tuesday moments, but it
Yeah,
just like I don't know. It just seems so egregious to me.
it is
that-
egregious. I just, in this case, I don't see the two as directly connected. I just see it as
Right. Because the other thing that
Twitch
was
continuing
was
to be shitty and Amazon continuing to be shitty, independent of each other.
facts. Because the other thing I was thinking was like maybe they're just working on content now for that to put out on YouTube or something. But yeah, I was going full Alex Jones. Like they are Twitch streamers. They work for Twitch. They get paid by Amazon. Amazon's paying them to be quiet. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, no, I don't see that one.
yeah.
Mostly, also, I'm not convinced that they would be covering that story that deeply anyway, because like, sometimes they talk about labor issues, but I don't see it often enough in general. There's a lot of stories
Well,
out there that they could be covering.
It's for me, it was an intersection of abolition and labor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because of the candle factory.
Being-
I know his son's talked about abolition.
Yeah.
I don't know how hard he goes in about it, but I know we have very similar takes.
Yeah. I don't follow him that closely personally, so I don't know, but
Yeah, I only watch YouTube. My mod Fade, he watches streams because like I work in the dock, he works in the office,
Yeah.
so we have two very different interactions with his content where he has time in between phone calls and stuff to have the live in the background, but I need to be able to hear, so I can only watch like clips and stuff in between.
there's a news story actually talking about another thing tangential to Amazon that just broke, where both Blue Origin and, as a result, SpaceX female engineers are coming forward with stories about systemic sexual harassment and stuff, because of course they are. But
Because of course, yeah.
So
This shit, I don't know. Are you a football fan?
not really.
Okay. I'm not really either. Like I kind of got into it just socially.
I'm a chess fan.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that deeply. I used to be in chess club.
Nice.
I suck at chess, that's why I don't do chess.
Okay.
So but yeah, Washington football team is complete shit show right now, and I mean that quite literally.
Mm.
Multiple scandals, one of which is including the fact that sewage water is leaking on their own customers' like stands.
Jeez.
But we found out. So I want to say Gavin Newsom, but that's not it. There's someone, John Gruden. So in the John Gruden revelations with the emails where they're talking about people using the N-word and being racially insensitive, all that stuff. Come to find out, because of course the cheerleaders for the Washington football team came out to say that there was extensive abuse, including like an incident where they were out in like Dubai somewhere, and the owner of the Redskins homeboy was, or Redskins, sorry, the owner of the football team's like homie was out there, and he basically on some like American labor shit was like, go out with him and pretend you're like, you know, be arm candy for him, for his like homies in Dubai or whatever, or you're not getting your visas, you're stuck in Dubai.
Fucking
That
hell.
type of shit. That type of shit, and you know, similar stuff to that, where they're like sending cheerleaders off to spend time with people. I don't think anything overtly sexual was negotiated in that, but naturally, because it is what it is, there's going to be
The power
sexual
dynamic
harassment.
demands it, yeah.
Right, yeah. So, you know, but there's protests at the stadium because they're trying to, they're basically like, show us what else was in those fucking emails, because
Right. Yeah.
we know what's in there, but you don't want to show the public.
Always the tip of the iceberg with this shit.
Right.
Oh my god. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Uh,
It is what it is.
this, I swear, there's just we've it like in some ways a lot of progress has been made, but you look at stuff like that and you're like, there's just still so much fucked.
Yeah. It's, for me, there's still so much fucked, but
Yeah.
I think about like my peoples, like my ancestors and stuff, and what they went through, and not like their perseverance and stuff, but just like the fact that they had to have believed that a better world was possible.
Yeah.
So I have to.
Yeah. Got to take inspiration in that. Absolutely. So, see, I'm kind of running out of steam and losing my voice here, so
Yeah, likewise.
I think this would be a good point to kind of close it up. So you can be found on Twitch TV /EndlessCemetery. Same with YouTube. Same with SoundCloud, though you get a little different on some of them.
Yeah, so my musical project, I kind of did independently of the streaming thing.
Yeah.
As like doing like gigging and stuff. So that's under a different name. It's under the name Nightmare Difficulty.
Okay.
Because there's a death metal band called Endless Cemetery, it was kind of hard
Yeah.
to get them to
Nightmare Difficulty is good,
like,
though. Yeah.
It is good. I was really glad that wasn't taken. But but yeah, Endless Cemetery is it's actually a Cryptopsy. This band Cryptopsy is a song title, and they spelled it incorrectly on their album, but I spelled it correctly to spell it. And I guess the band also decided that they wanted to spell it correctly when they started their band. And they seem cool. It's like not even that they are being dicks, like, nah, we're keeping the name, whatever. It's like their band's been broken up for a while. It's just they, I guess, lazy, forgot the password, or don't know how to. So I got to just like wait out the year or so for that to get relinquished, and by then I'll have enough like following brand synergy or whatever.
One of my chatters asks, is Nightmare difficulty a Doom reference?
It is,
It is.
absolutely. Actually, my most recent track is actually a remix of E1M2.
Oh,
Dark
shit.
Halls. Yeah.
That's a banger.
Yeah, the project I'm working on now is actually a lot of just like flipped game soundtracks from my childhood that were like foundational. So E1M2, the combat simulator loop from Perfect Dark. I got some really deep cuts. I got the track from the second level of Turok 2 on the Game Boy Color. Like, yeah, I'm just going crazy with it.
Awesome.
With just different like pause menu loops and stuff. So
that's awesome.
thank you.
All right. Well, hopefully you get some more followers and music fans out of this, and like I said, I'll cut this out to YouTube. I've really enjoyed this, and I
likewise.
I'd enjoy
Hopefully
these.
we do this more.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I'd like to chat and just like this was kind of just a introduction kind of conversation. I think it would be cool to,
for sure.
I think you can have like a main topic and then just see where things go, and I think that's a good format and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
for sure. Do what you were talking about with the debate thing.
Yeah. All right. So you have a good night. Kept you from your friend long enough. Hope you have a good time out there. And
thank you. You have a good night as well. And I'll see you soon. Either I'll be live or whichever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Night.